In 1993, Michael Crichton, Steven Spielberg, and everyone involved in Jurassic Park made one of the most iconic films of all time and sparked the imagination of countless audiences around the world by bringing dinosaurs to life on the big screen. Can they possibly create the same spectacular experience in a sequel? Let's find out. This is The Lost World: Jurassic Park. Now, you might be wondering how a sequel is even possible. A, without a steady supply of lysine, wouldn't the animals be dead? And B, who would be stupid enough to go back to the island after all that happened in the first film? Well, it turns out that there's a second island named Isla Sorna. The scientists bred the dinosaurs there before transporting them to the amusement park on Isla Nublar, which kind of contradicts what we saw in this scene. Anyway, former InGen CEO John Hammond, in order to use public opinion to keep this second island safe from corporate exploitation, plans to send a research team to gather a photo record of the dinosaurs in their habitats. Dr. Ian Malcolm, knowing the danger firsthand, initially refuses to take part in the expedition until he realizes that his girlfriend, paleontologist Dr. Sarah Harding, is already on the island. Unfortunately, InGen sends a second team to capture several dinosaurs and take them back to the mainland. Of course, things go wrong, and these two groups eventually have to work together in order to survive. As you can tell, the plot is a bit more complicated this time around and requires more suspension of disbelief. However, while it's definitely not as good as the first one, this movie is still a worthy sequel. First of all, I love that Malcolm is now the protagonist. There's a beautiful irony in the fact that the guy who was against the idea from the get-go is now put in this situation again. This leads to a lot of funny moments where he's one step ahead of everyone else in terms of common sense.
Oh yeah, that's how it always starts. But then later there's running and screaming.
I figured out how the animals survive without lysine.
I don't care.
I'll tell you what you need, a good antipsychotic.
Mommy's very angry.
And Jeff Goldblum plays these scenes brilliantly. His eccentric charisma and naturalistic deliveries lend a unique charm to his character that makes him extremely likable and entertaining. He's not the only one to reprise his role, however. Ariana Richards and Joseph Mazzello have a quick cameo, and Richard Attenborough lends plenty of dramatic weight and subtle gravitas to his minor appearance as Hammond. But who are the new players? Well, as Sarah, we have Julianne Moore, who has great chemistry and believable interactions with Goldblum. Not only is she fairly convincing when conveying her character's extensive knowledge, but her curiosity and sense of adventure make her a pretty endearing female lead. Vince Vaughn also does a good job as Nick the documentarian, bringing a brash initiative that suits the scenario. Richard Schiff isn't quite as prominent as Eddie the equipment expert, but he has some funny lines and a sarcastic expertise that help him make the most of his limited screen time. Additionally, Vanessa Lee Chester gives a decent performance as Malcolm's daughter, emulating some of the same charm as the kids from the first film. However, the best new addition to the cast is Pete Postlethwaite as big game hunter Roland. He effortlessly exudes a sense of hardened experience and practicality that almost made me want him to be the main character. Unfortunately, most of the other humans come off as expendable. On the upside, there's definitely a morbid inspiration in how some of these people go out. Steven Spielberg continually displays his talent for setting up and filming these chaotic scenes from creative angles, keeping the camera kinetic while always giving audiences a clear picture. It's a well-shot jungle adventure flick from someone who's been in the business for years. The film also benefits from a faster pace than its predecessor. It still has plenty of slower, more suspenseful scenarios, but there are noticeably more thrilling chase scenes to be found here. This is fitting since these creatures and the danger that they pose were already established in the first film. However, that doesn't mean that there's not a sense of wonder in the sequel. There are noticeably more dinosaurs in this one, many of which are completely new to the series. Once again, they are amazingly brought to life by the effects team. The CGI still manages to impress, with the dinosaurs being much more mobile and unpredictable. In conjunction, the puppets and animatronics are thoroughly jaw-dropping, with the baby T-Rex being a particular highlight. You still feel like you could reach out and touch these things, and the greater number of animals on screen leads to an appropriately larger scope. This is further complemented by the music. John Williams delivers a score that sounds familiar to many of his themes from the first movie, but he also brings plenty of newer pieces that have a suitably wilder and more exotic feel. However, what ultimately holds this film back from being as good as its predecessor is its conservationist message. Now, let me say that I wholeheartedly support wildlife conservation. I just have a minor issue with how it's conveyed here. The character interactions regarding this topic really could have been more thought-provoking instead of basically coming down to, "You're a bunch of looters. Well, you're a bunch of tree huggers." The theme of man being unfit to mess with nature was more effective in the first movie because we could identify with both sides of the argument. Hammond had real passion and love for his idea. He wanted to bring audiences something tangible that they'd never seen before. Here, we have a slimy businessman who only cares about making a profit. Arliss Howard tries to inject some nuance into this character, but the black and white morality renders him and his goals utterly uninteresting. The message would have been more potent if the filmmakers had taken more time and consideration in developing it. In the end, though, The Lost World Jurassic Park is still a satisfying second entry in the series that maintains much of the same passion that started the franchise in the first place. Boasting confident direction, naturalistic characters, accomplished acting, excellent effects, and a stellar musical score, this movie broadens the scope of this world and offers an immensely enjoyable adventure in the process. Thanks for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, and/or comment. Until next time.